My name is Richard Barca. I was in the marketing and sales department for the Southern California Gas Company for about 37 years before I retired, and pretty much about the same time frame, for about 34 years, I had my own investment planning business. Well, I have a degree in engineering technology from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And I went through the normal recruiting process that they had on campus, interviewed a lot of different companies, and ended up at the gas company. My dad was a rancher, and my mom told me at an early age that ranching was not going to really be an option for me, and that I needed to look for some other career opportunity. So I ended up looking around at other family members, kind of seeing what they were doing, and I had an uncle that was an electrician. We visited them often, and I really liked how organized his garage was. It really impressed me. One thing led to another. When I was in high school, I joined the electronics club, got pretty excited about the things that they were doing in that club, and just decided that electronics and engineering would be a good thing for me to consider doing. Well, back in the mid-70s, when I was first hired, they only hired engineering disciplines to be in their marketing and sales department. So that was something that you had to have. They were also looking for people who had interpersonal sales skills. So to have a combination of both an engineering background and somebody who was outgoing and liked to talk with people were the main criteria that they were looking for when they did the hiring. Well, I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in engineering technology. That was a prerequisite to actually get the job. And if you had an MBA, that would help. But I think it would be whatever the criteria is for any normal company that's going to be hiring that type of technical background. You'd want to have some kind of an engineering background. It was a pretty exciting job. 5 days a week for probably 5 years. Every day was different, new and exciting. My job was to be the gas company's liaison between the company and the customer. So I had about 125 very large gas consuming customers. They needed somebody to be the person that they would go to for any criteria that they had, whether it was contracts, whether it was making sure the meter was read properly, negotiating rates. They needed to have somebody do that, and that was my job. You got to see all of the manufacturing processes, so that was really fun. You got to see how a piece of furniture was made, how it was anodized, how glass was made, how a figurine was designed, how plating was accomplished. Just every industry, and it was just a fun job to do. It took several years to really understand the complexity of the job. What I mean by that is that you didn't have to be really smart. It's just that you had to be astute, be aware of what was going on in the job. You had to keep up with all of the environmental issues that would happen for a particular customer, all the state regulations that might affect them, any conservation programs that the Public Utilities Commission were issuing that were available to the customer. So you had to keep track of all of the activities, plus procedural scenarios within the company. Well, I think you have to have, if you're going to be in sales engineering, you need to have a good personality. You don't have to be the top of your marketplace. In other words, I was just really just a C student, so it was more about the personality, being able to offer guidance to a customer, be a consultant to them, acting that way. So a person that is just genuinely interested and wants to be kind-hearted to your human fellow being is really an important element, plus the engineering background. You know, I really didn't have a typical workday. Our motto was get the job done. So sometimes that would mean maybe you'd only work a 5 or 6 hour day, and sometimes that might mean you'd work a 10 or 15 hour day. There was a lot of entertainment that was required, so there could have been a breakfast meeting, a lunch meeting, a dinner meeting. There was the expectation that you would entertain at maybe a sporting event. I had a general motto that you really didn't know somebody until you broke bread with them. And so it was really important to go out to lunch and get to know that person. Then that person would feel more comfortable actually sharing some of the real issues that their company was having. My job was to try to figure out how to help that customer be more successful in what they did. The more success that customer had, the more gas that they were going to use. And our job was to sell as much gas as possible, natural gas. So getting to know the customer was very important, and entertainment was part of that whole process. You know, we worked probably about 35 hours a week. It would vary, because there would be some times that you would actually be on a trip for 2 weeks, educational trip, and it would be 24/7 for the whole 2 weeks. So, but on average, probably 35 hours a week. Well, as I mentioned before, the job required you to be an engineer and have interpersonal sales skills. That particular job, I think, can be transferred to a lot of different professions. It's all about being somewhat technical. It's all about your ability to communicate with other people. So whether or not you would pick this particular job set, or it would be transferable to a lot of other activity. So I would say, yeah, the opportunities are abound, and I don't see that there would be any way that it would go away. You know, I don't think there's going to be any change necessarily. I mean, there's always the technology aspects that change, but people seem to want to be with people they like. And so if you do a good job of understanding your customer, having the technical skills to help them, and have a general perspective in life that you're there to help the other person and you're not there to sell the other person on something, I don't think there's going to be, I think there's going to be a bright future for anybody that chose this profession. Well, you probably would start in today's dollars, maybe 70, 75,000. 10 to 15 years from now, adjusted for inflation, 125 to 135,000. My job was an entry-level job, and I stayed doing the same job, even though there were progressive steps from a beginning engineer to a senior account executive doing the same job. I just enjoyed the work, and I didn't have any need to want to go further in corporate life. I just liked it. I think the only negative is strictly the political aspects within a corporation. The larger the corporation is, the greater chance is going to be political things that go on as far as upward mobility within a company. And you just have to decide whether or not that's your thing and whether you want to play the game or not. I didn't want to play that game, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed doing what I did and stayed there. Also, because it only took me 35 to 40 hours a week to do my job, that gave me time to proceed with my investment planning business on the side. I always wanted to have more than one source of income. I was kind of an entrepreneurial spirited type of a person. So by not working up through the corporate ranks, it gave me the time to focus on my own stuff, and that was a good decision on my part. You know, that not too often, but this was a utility-based company. So if you did a good job and you showed value for who you were and what you did, you pretty much you'd have to do something really crazy to lose your job. So yeah, not too often. Well, when you have an analytical mind and you have interpersonal skills, you can pretty much do anything. I mean, when you think about it, an attorney, a consultant, an engineer that are dealing with people, you can transfer these skills to almost any job set. You can be self-employed. People like dealing with people who are fun to be around, who are knowledgeable, and have your best interest in mind. And that has definitely proven itself in the investment world. Once you get a trusting relationship with a client, they're going to be your client for forever, for all intents and purposes. Well, when I was working as a marketing account executive, 50% of the time was in the field, just going out, checking with each customer, seeing if I could help them, touring their facilities, trying to be a consultant to them. The other 50% was in the office, doing reports, doing a little research, and that type of thing. For my investment planning business, that ratio has changed over time. Now I spend about 10% of the time actually talking to my clients, either on the phone or face-to-face or through emails. And I spend 90% of my time doing research and portfolio evaluation, that kind of stuff. Yes, I would like to say that I'd like to encourage you to find a mentor or more than one mentor in whatever field that you think you would like to have as an endeavor. I think that you should try and do some internships whenever you possibly can. And the reason is that not only can doing internships and having a mentor help you with what you think you'd like to do, they would also, and just as importantly, maybe discover what you don't want to do. It's just as important to know that you don't want to do something as to do something. So take on different job opportunities and get a feel for what is out there, and really, and I think for the most part, discover what you really don't want to do. You're looking for a passion. If you have a passion in any of your whatever you enjoy doing, then working isn't really work because it's something that you really are going to enjoy doing. I would ask as many old people who you can find what they would do different in their lives. Learn from other people's examples and mistakes. I can remember when I was 25, I asked as many 65-year-olds as I could get a hold of how they would do things different in their careers and or investments. And I learned a lot from listening to the people that went before me.